Okay, well, it's 1 o'clock. Thank you, everyone, for joining us here on the Bites Show with our esteemed guest, James Roberts. You may know him as the proprietor of Toutant, a person capable of realizing that people love bologna sandwiches in Buffalo, so I'm going to make my own bologna, is the James Robert response to that sort of thing. Um, James, I know a lot of people know about Toutant on Ellicott Street, but I thought maybe we'd start here by giving you a chance to introduce yourself in case there's people here who aren't down with the James Roberts story. So, where are you from and how'd you get to Buffalo? And as few words as possible.
Uh, I'm from New Orleans, Louisiana, born and raised. I was actually raised in the area of Louisiana south of the city of New Orleans, which is a sort of a rural shrimping and fishing community. It was an amazing childhood filled with a lot of nature and some things that I thought everybody had, like fresh shrimp and crabs and fishing, saltwater fishing and duck hunting and things like that. So I had a really great food basis as a child, and I didn't really realize it until I moved out of that area of Louisiana. And I was like, man, I thought everybody had fresh shrimp for sale on the side of the road. I did not. They did not. I sort of followed my travels after culinary school. I went to school for medicine first, and then I realized Plan B quickly became Plan A when I enjoyed seeing people at their best instead of at their worst, which was cooking my way through school and seeing people happy was really sort of the driving force to finding what I liked more about it. And in that process, I got to see a lot of the United States, mostly regional Southern, a little bit of East Coast, a little bit of West Coast, a little bit of mid Texas, which I really loved, and some Northeast, which is just on a whim. I left New Orleans to take a job at a restaurant in Rochester. It was actually in Victor. I was only like 23, and I just kind of jumped in a car with a buddy, and we came up here. And my mom was like, "Don't you know how cold it is in New York?" I was like, I'll get a jacket. Well, we moved up in September, and it was amazing. A day much like today, beautiful, sunny, and very quickly did it turn to icy November. And I realized that I had met my match for weather. But I loved it. I learned to appreciate the four seasons as something that we didn't have in Louisiana, where it's like hot, not so hot. But I really enjoyed the seasons, and then really started to understand what climate and agriculture and seasonal availability meant to cooks and chefs. And that really, just got me going. Decided I needed to go to culinary school, went to Johnson & Wales in Providence, Rhode Island, got a good taste of New England while I was there, up and down the coast, big cities like Boston and New York, but then also little tiny towns in Nashville, New Hampshire, and Vermont, and places like that I really loved. Rhode Island was incredible too. A lot of close to my heart coastal seafood, the coast of Mass, Falmouth, that places like that. They're really just incredible. Narragansett, Newport, clams, lobsters, all the things that I thought I was going to miss about South Louisiana came back pretty quickly in a different form, obviously with New England seafood, but really amazing. Man, I just kind of followed the work out of culinary school. I ended up at a country club in Rochester as the executive sous chef at Oak Hill. Was there for a while, realized I really loved leading, team building, watching people grow. And then I took my first executive chef job at the Park Country Club in Buffalo in 2007. And I've been in Buffalo since. And the heart of the city, the neighborly vibes, the blue collar work ethic, it really just aligned with things that I love and my identity. So my wife and I decided to make our home here. And after 10 years at the Park Club, really going through some of the worst, obviously, financial crises of U.S. In a job that required you to be pretty financially conscious, I learned that I felt like I probably needed more, and the opportunity for this address down here on Ellicott Street came about. It was in shambles, but we saw past the rubble and saw the love that we could create, and we've been here since almost 10 years now, 9 in May. So
if you go to the second floor of Toutant, at the top of the stairs, directly in front of you, there's a photograph on the wall of a shack, a fish camp.
That's right.
And the name of that camp is?
It was Toutant. So that's where my dad and everybody, they had this like nickname for it. it took a little bit of digging through some of my family history, which I've actually quite enjoyed, trying to find some of the food stuffs and sort of the nature of some of their like the settling between the my grandparents. Some are from Canary Islands and Spain, some are from France and Europe, and then having that middle ground in southern Louisiana where that mix of Spanish and French culture mixed to be Creole in the Delta of Louisiana, in the river Delta, and then West Louisiana being the French and shallots and pork charcuterie, that sort of thing. Culinarily, it was really incredible. What I didn't realize is that my great grandparents had used that camp as a source of sustenance for hunting, trapping, neutral, waterfowl, fishing, shrimping, and it was like a hub where you would go out, stay out for days, process most of your catch and byproduct, whether it be pelts or shrimps or fishes or anything, sort of kind of travel in. It was like a midway point from the outside marsh where we had a lot of land and a lot of waterways where you could make those harvests and then transport them inland to be sold for sale. And that was a lot of our family's livelihood. So it was really cool how, I remember going to that camp. It was pre-Katrina, obviously. Now it was white flat, late early 2000s. But I remember going to that camp as a little kid, jumping off the boat, onto the dock, which was really rickety. My dad be like, "Oh, be careful!" and opening cupboards and finding like Vienna sausages and tins of saltines and like a wax tub that they used to, pluck the ducks in, and cool stuff that it was foreign to me, even in when I talk about the early '80s childhood. It was a different way of life, and I was living the remnants of that in my grandfather and father's habits. They took us out fishing all the time. We got up in the morning early. A lot of times it was with the treats of like moon pies and chocolate milk to get in the truck early. We'd sleep all the way there in the boat. We'd sleep all the way on the boat ride all the way out. My dad and my grandfather would be back there, chatting it up. And I learned that it was a part of me early that I didn't even have to learn it. It was just natural. So in bringing Toutant to Buffalo, I've managed to really find a lot of those things that I maybe loved or maybe just kind of glossed over because of just childhood or whatever, and really got to dig into some of the good food. My grandmother's gumbo recipe, for example, she was always really light broth, really light roux, liked a little filet. My dad never liked okra, so she only put it in when we came over. Like, we didn't come over. So things like that were just really fun. And then there's still a lot of catalogs that I have yet to tap into. When I go home to see my dad, he likes to break out this little tin of all these handwritten recipe cards that are all yellow and got newspaper clippings on the back of them. Last time we were there, we had a few drinks sitting around the table, and I started snapping pictures of them with my phone so that I could digitally log them, because he wouldn't let me get them until he's gone probably. But there's some good stuff in there that stuffed crawfish heads, Merleton pie, things that I didn't really recognize as special as a youth, and now really awesome.
Two things. One, old people don't know that if like they turn around, you can take pictures of everything and you can just leave the paper behind. Number two,
Yeah.
what is Merleton pie?
Merleton. It's like a prickly pear. It's a fruit, really, 'cause it's got a big seed in the middle. But my grandmother used to grow them on a trellis over like where we would dry the trawl nets in the fall. After shrimp season, my grandfather would hang them all up, and then he'd patch them wherever they got holes or whatever, string patch. And then, but in the spring and summer, she'd grow Merlotons underneath these on the trellises, and they kind of hang like, it looks kind of like an avocado. It's not a pawpaw. It's not like something like that. It's more like a fern.
James,
Coyote, yeah. Prickly pear, yeah. So we'd take that and we'd peel them, and you make it's basically a squash custard pie with it. And it's like a bright green too. So like it's kind of funny to look at, and people are like, "Oh, I don't like that." But as soon as you eat it, it's like sweet and creamy and kind of custardy, almost like creme brulee-ish. Obviously, you add a little vanilla, but some of those things I've not really tried yet. I don't know if Buffalo would be down with that, but I'm willing to go for it at least once.
That's one of the things that makes, I think, Toutant attractive to people who like to eat different things and talk about it. You're always up to something. I mean, you are somebody who is willing to give it a shot. I mean, what are some of your favorite one-offs, from the over Toutant? I'm not saying you're going to make it again, because it's a lot of work. But for the people who aren't aware, I mentioned that you will make your own bologna for smoked bologna sandwiches if you feel like it. What are some of the other things like that you've done?
Well, I mean, I think first and foremost, I think we set out at Toutant to make sure that our mission was to kind of the hardware on purpose. Um, there's a lot of things that we make in house that we can certainly buy. They're not necessarily better if we buy them, so that we make them one because we can make it better than we can buy it, and that's our only rule with buying and sourcing is if we can buy it better, we will buy it. If we can, obviously cost effectively, but if we can make it better, we make it. Period. And so a lot of the things that we make from scratch, like our bacon and our
Sorry, I'm
sausage.
going to interrupt. And some of the things that you make as a result of that policy are, for instance, for people who are not familiar,
Well, I mean, we make all our own bread.
you bake all your own bread, right? Go ahead.
Yeah, we make everything if we can. We make our own bread. If we don't know how to make it, we figure it out. That's sort of where these one-offs you're talking about come from. But like we definitely make and smoke our own sauces all the time. We smoke the chicken for our gumbo. Obviously, that's a pretty easy one. We make our tasso for our shrimp and grits. We smoke all our own barbecue. Obviously, this is amazing. And again, that's just the best way we like it, fresh out of the smoker. Making bacon is one of those things that people don't realize how much it actually costs to buy incredible heritage bellies and then cure them all week and then smoke them yourself and then slice them for brunch on Sunday. And you just blow through it on breakfast. Every week I do it, I watch it go, and I'm like, holy moly, we got bellies curing today, like so. This is one of those things but the one-offs, certainly bologna sandwich is a great one. I spotted with Craig Deal in Charleston, South Carolina for a while, and he had a large diameter salami. I was learning dry curing and stuff from him, and he does it at a very low temperature. And he had a large salami that he was smoking for something, and I was like, man, that thing's huge. I was like, it's like a bologna. He's like, it's kind of like that, it's kind of like that country farce. And I was like, man, I wonder if I could make a all beef, like high fat content bologna that would still be a deli meat but grillable, because Buffalo likes the hard grilled, this team thick cut, team thin cut. Ours that we make in house is not the team thin cut, although I do love that. That's my personal favorite. Team thick cut is the one where we stuff a 5-inch bologna casing with, we use briskets and top round typically, and we add a little bit of beef fat from the ribeye, and then we grind it all nice and fine and mix it with brown sugar and coriander and like traditional bologna spices, and then we smoke it in the smoker, chill it hard, and then slice it and grill it on. If we do that, then we got to make milk buns or some kind of bread, because you got to have a squishy roll, which we don't normally make. So those one-offs tend to be a lot more work than just regular production, but it's a really special treat to know that people can get a kick out of it. And that's one of the ones. So I have to credit, obviously, like Russ, our chef cuisine, has been with since day one and came up through the ranks. Joe Fenish, who was our original chef cuisine, and even our whole staff, really, as they come and go, kind of challenging that creativity. Like somebody will say, oh man, can we make a French dip with this tasso one day? And we're kind of making snacks for us. And I'm like, holy shit, we should sell this. Like, so that's kind of how it generates. Mostly is us sitting around going, wow, I could take this French dip and I could do it with tasso, shave it really thin. That was maybe one of Joe's favorite. He had a Dagwood that he used to make at late night that he would eat on up there. And it was like pork rinds, freaking bacon, a fried egg, and we just slice the bread, and just stack it up with tasso. And he sold it a couple times, but it was tough to eat. But I like the bologna, obviously, the muffaletta, number one for me. I think that's my all-time favorite sandwich. And the version we make is one that I had as a young man. I was working on a welding crew, and the guy that was driving the truck would stop at this bar in Laplace, and it was the only place I knew that had a hot one, because I've always had them in New Orleans in the French Quarter, and they're cold. This guy had this little place, I forget the name of the bar, but he'd go in there and he'd come bring it out, and it's it's this big, it's wrapped in foil, and it's the size of a small child. And he'd set it on the seat between us on the pickup truck, and I'd have to wait like an hour and a half before we'd finish our stops, and it's just smelling up the truck, garlic butter and olive salad and salami and hot ham, and this place baked their own bread too. So that's kind of where I got that one from. That's a really a labor intensive one too, is that you make the bread, you make the olive salad, you got to brine it, you got to let it sit for a while, then you got to make the ham. We had our city ham for a while that we were making. We tried to make salamis, it just takes too long, and you just blow through it so fast with 50 sandwiches. It's tough. So we saved the muffaletta for things like Super Bowl and like Father's Day. The stinger was a great one, prime rib stinger. That one is a cult favorite. I didn't know that Buffalo had a stinger as like a steak and chicken finger sub. That's like their thing. at certain late night places. And so we had smoked prime rib left over one day, and Ross walked by and put a Nashville tendy right on top of it. And I was like, oh, we are definitely selling that one. So we did, and it's become sort of a cult favorite that people look out for. Recently, we went smoked prime rib cheesesteak. That one is pimento cheese on hot cheesesteak. Nobody would have saw that one coming. It should have been obvious.
One because you saw Super Bowl's coming, Phillies in the Super Bowl. We should do a cheesesteak, but you're going to do a cheesesteak Toutant style, which is pimento and smoked shaved prime rib.
Yeah, we didn't think that was going to be. I don't know why we didn't think to put pimento cheese on. We have it all the time, and we dunk everything in pimento cheese if we can. So like, I didn't realize. I just did it one day. I don't know if it was for somebody, one of the servers or somebody was like, "Can I just get a side of pimento cheese with that?" And I tossed it in a bowl and stuck it in the roll and handed it to. I was like, "Oh, we should probably sell this one too."
And before we move on, I just wanted to mention in your drive to make it, if you can't buy it better, your your shrimp po' boy roll.
Yeah.
So for those who are not fortunate enough to have eaten po' boy in its natural locale surrounding, New Orleans and Louisiana, the typical bread there is it's not a baguette. It's really lighter than a baguette. It has a much thinner skin, and this is the tell. When you bite it, it crackles. You can hear it. Like it's so crispy, right?
All down the front of your shirt.
And the
you got to
flakes
kind of
down the
brush it off.
yes.
Yeah.
So you couldn't buy that commercially, and you said, I need to make it, and you ended up buying something called a combi oven, which is like $40,000.
They get expensive new. Yeah, ours is a combination humidity and steam oven, regular convection oven and steam oven. And they're pretty common tools in today's kitchen, and not always. It's super expensive. You can buy them used, but the one we have is when you can add a little humidity to it. The reason why that bread is so good in Louisiana, number one, it certainly is a blend of like the French and a little bit of Vietnamese cultures of recipe building in Louisiana's sort of demographic. When they talk about the melting pot of Louisiana and New Orleans, they're serious. I mean, they're every type of immigrant or person has come through that port, and a lot of them have left their marks. A lot of African roots, a lot of Spanish, a lot of French, certainly Vietnamese with shrimping and fishing.
Cajun Vietnamese is its own genre now.
Oh yeah, and rightfully so, because I mean we all love Vietnamese food crazy, but the stars just align. They run in the same vein for sure. A lot of citrus, a lot of acid, a lot of heat, a little bit of great base products, and a lot of stuff from scratch with like the pork rillettes versus the hams and tassos and things like that. But yeah, so the French bread, I actually had my dad ship me up a gallon of water from New Orleans because I thought it was the water for a while. But it's actually, we found, and I've gone back and now since Leidenheimer's got a secret out that they have these old brick, high tunnel ovens. And that's part of it, is where they bake it is super humid in the area just in general. And they're already in a warehouse. And so when they're running these doughs through these tunnel ovens, it's high, it's got a lot of humidity in it, but it's just so hot and fast. It's a really light hydration straight dough. There's no fat in it. And they use a lot of fresh yeast and things that help kind of bring it up. We don't necessarily have that availability here, but we get as close as we possibly can. And for us, baking it fresh, we actually brush it with a little butter or oil at the end. But when they come out, it's the same thing. I mean, you can crackly crunch it. And we do that purposely when we fire the shrimp po' boy upstairs. We will make sure we get that, we brush that roll inside with our bourbon butter, and then we fire it in a 450-degree hot convection oven until it's crunchy, crackly. Then we pull it out and we stuff it with the shrimp and lettuce, tomato, all that. Fresh fried shrimp is in that thing, just kind of stacked. It's a great sandwich. It's maybe the closest iteration I can get to eating it fresh in Louisiana than I can find locally, and that's why we do it that way. Is because it's simple. The simple fact of like bringing in the shrimp from Louisiana all the time. There is a different flavor to fresh Gulf shrimp, domestic. You can't get it in any import. Don't get me wrong. There are a lot of imports out there that are incredible, great seafood, great tasting shrimp. But that sweetness of a domestic Gulf of Mexico shrimp, something that I grew up on, basically in a baby bottle, is something I want other people to experience. So we do that as well. Like I go to Buffalo Airport once a week, and pick it up from Southwest Cargo, brings it up from Louisiana. We have a fishmonger in Metairie right outside the airport that transports a lot of, and every day it's from a different processor. Every time we get it, it might be Biloxi, it might be, New Orleans, it might be Hopedale, it might be Lafayette, it might be, it's anywhere in there. As long as it's domestic wild Gulf shrimp, that's our standard. And that goes into jambalaya and stuff too, but it is a eating difference. It's very much so a different product.
If people were going to ask you, wow, this shrimp at Toutant tastes a little different. I mean, basically the answer is you got a guy. You got a guy.
It's supposed to taste different. Yeah, that's and that, those are the little secrets. I mean, we like to talk about at Toutant that, we like to surprise people. We've said from the beginning that we're not going to brag about like the things we do purposely well. We're going to let it sneak up on people. So yeah, I mean, some of the things that we take care of, number one, high levels of service, making sure people are comfortable, all welcoming the environment, making sure whoever you come, we call it suit or short. Like you can do either or and feel great about being here. And that's like our primary focus. And then they know we try to do well with the food, but then when you go, wow, why is this so good? Or why is this different? Or why can't I make this like this at home? Those are the real reasons. And, making your own stocks, making your own broth, starting with whole foods, making sure you're buying products that are, but not only of premium quality, but premium origin, and at least to the best of your ability, right? I mean, every restaurant is a financial balancing act, especially today. But the idea of being able to do the best you can all the time, no matter what, is really what we decided. And that's kind of post-COVID too, is we decided that we were going to stand on our strengths. And our strengths are, number one, incredible, familial service, like being welcoming to everyone and making sure they're taken care of and being taking care of them, and then surprising them, really trying to sneak up on them with really incredible preparations and whole foods and, just not a lot of crazy fats. And so it was a misconception about Louisiana Cajun food in general, is that everybody thinks it's got to be all hot sauce and all heat and everything. Because it has spice does not make it necessarily spicy. And I think that's a misconception about Louisiana food in general. I think that the one thing about what a native or someone who's from and grown up there will tell you the difference is between what they find in the rest of the country and what they eat in the city. There are some things that are hot, obviously, no doubt about it. But the point is to have a spice palate. And that goes back to that origin story of all those different cuisines coming through the port of New Orleans. You just adopt it. I mean, you have all these different allspice and pimenton and, even curries and gravies and, things like that. Is just, it happens just naturally as that kind of melds through the mouth of the Mississippi River. And, we try to do our best to display it. We have a little bit of a buffalo palate, obviously. We tone some things down, some things we don't. And some things that we do authentic, we make sure they're authentic on purpose. And I like to do that. I like to research a lot of stuff. I mean, that's, Debutsu, Compass Run, everything. I like culinarily, I built this restaurant because I like to cook, and that's really the bottom line, is I get to do it every day, and that's what fuels me the best, that and team building. But making people
Mr.
happy,
Roberts,
for sure.
you can feel okay not telling everybody about the fact that you only sell shrimp that you pick up at the airport that you get from a guy in Louisiana once a week who you can keep that to yourself. It's my job to get that
My
out.
dad's
So,
connection. Yeah.
well,
He's got a guy.
When you got a guy, you get things that other people can't normally get. I mean,
Yeah, but I mean,
you can
that's
buy
part
a
of the
lot of
experience.
shrimp in Buffalo, but can you buy straight up week out of the water Gulf shrimp at retail? No, you can't.
Yeah. I mean, there are mass processing plants all around the country, and domestic products of all different, animals are something that you are capable of buying now, especially today's logistic market of global shipping. You can pretty much get anything here in a day. I mean, we used to do that with tuna from Japan all the time at Debutsu, and it was like, it was literally like freaking, some of it was still in rigor. Like it's capable. It's a matter of what you want to pay for it, obviously, but that's a choice. I mean, like I said, there are premium import products you can buy in Buffalo, and we still do a lot for a lot of different things. With some great vendors, people that we deal with, and we trust their opinion on what they say is good, and local ones too, whether it be local farms and produce, our meat and seafood people, the big produce people, anything, you can buy it great, and we choose to do it that way because that's the way we want to do it, and it's not just have it delivered here. I actually got to go get it, which is sometimes a pain in the butt, but that's okay. that's some of the different effort we're talking about. It's important to us.
When you talk about the little touches that are behind the scene, you just want people to go like, wow, this is great. One of the examples that I like to give people, because you told me about it, is the Nashville sauce. Now, Nashville has become like, to a certain extent, it's been bastardized almost as much as buffalo sauce, right? But
Oh yeah, I'm sure. Yeah.
it's a fried chicken with a lot of flavor, seasonings in the crust, and then it gets a dip in uh chili forward oil, basically. But what you do there to get the umami up is, oh, come on, you sneak rendered chicken fat and pork fat into that sauce, don't you?
Yeah, a little bit. We like to. So I think the big thing about Nashville that I didn't like about Nashville in general, and most examples of it, including the ones in Nashville, Tennessee, are that they are so fatty. It is it's a oily grill, like oily like you say like a dip, and it's kind of saturated. And that's the only thing I didn't really like about it. I love the flavor. I love that sweet heat balance, hot enough to make you curse, sweet enough where you can't stop eating it. Like I like that. And that's our motto with it. But we worked on it for a while. Joe is a good food science, guy like me. He likes to really dive into how things work. And we started looking at the sugar content. We started looking at the makeup of the original, like, they say the fryer oil, how the original Princess was done. The lady was trying to kill him because he was out cheating or something like that. So she was using fryer oil from the fried chicken with cayenne and stuff. And I guess that's a true story. But so we started looking at that, and I was like, what if we made it like an emulsion? What if we made it a hotter? And the first one I made was like an olive oil blend, and then it didn't really come out. We had some small playing around, and I had a few drips off the barbecue pork, and I was like, you know what, man, this is all smoky and good. This might be what we're looking for. So we had a little paprika. We had a little brown sugar. We had a little salt and cayenne, but we couldn't find that last bit. So we actually use our smoked chicken stock as a broth base to that sauce, and then we emulsify it with a little bit of fat. And those fats can be our virgin olive oil, a little bit of smoked chicken fat, and then our rendered pork fat from the barbecue. And we'll take those and harvest them and preserve and keep them for just that sauce. And then we combine them all together. And when you spin it, it makes it like a vinaigrette almost. And it's not a secret that we do that. People can eat it and look at that. It doesn't soak the chicken like wet, but it also doesn't make it drippy oil. So like we can brush that on both sides of them tenders and kind of flip them around. Instead of dunking it, we just kind of dress the top coating. And because it's double battered, it's super crunchy on the outside. It's almost impenetrable. So when you set that on the outside, you kind of set them on that broth and then hit it again. And it just kind of just sets on top, put the pickles on. Some people put bacon and eggs, and we've had put it on a waffle. We've had everybody do all kind of stuff with it, but it becomes something that's special. And I hope that, because even though the composition of the sauce might not be exactly traditional, I hope that we got Hattie B's and Prince's sort of together in something that's ours. And I think, obviously the sales tell the story. People go crazy for it, and we love it too. We keep it in our small plates category because we want to surprise people. It says smallish plates on the menu, so we keep it over there. And when it comes out, people are like, "What am I supposed to do with this thing?" But it's funny. It's with breakfast, dinner, late night. It don't matter.
And before I move on from your Nashville chicken, I will point out that one of the things I like about it is that when it arrives, it has just enough sauce. There's just enough sauce to soak into the piece of white bread underneath it, which Toutant makes itself using dill pickle brine instead of water in the loaf, right?
Yeah, well, we make it.
And when you're done
anyway.
eating it, there's almost no sauce on the plate because it's not drowning, it's not swimming. Right. It's just got enough.
Again, that's our sneaky move is trying to make things healthful while still adhering to what we need to be as gluttonous. Like that's, even like the vegetable broth that starts our jambalaya, or like the collards that are done in our pot liquor that starts with the vegetable broth. Like things like that we just sneaky don't have to tell people that we're not, I'm not trying to crush them with salt and sugar and a lot of fats. If we can make it lighter and leaner, for our cuisine that's, maybe bastardly described as heavy. Fried chicken is fried chicken, but peanut oil in a pressure fryer is a hell of a lot better than coming out of something that somebody's basting it in a cast iron with freaking, you know, who knows what fryer oil from, you know, who knows what it is. You know, I guess lard would be the only better way than peanut oil. But yeah, I mean, like we try to make them as light and as when you're eating, if you go hush puppies and cornbread and then you have a, you know, some shrimp or jambalaya and you got a Nashville, I don't want you walking out of here feeling like you got to have a coma. You know, I want you to feel good about eating here and then maybe even have, you know, a little ooey gooey or brown butter or whatever. I mean, we can, if you want to top it off, we can top it off, obviously, whiskey, whatever. But if you can come in and do just a few things and, you know, and feel good about eating after you're done eating, that's our goal, really. I mean, longevity is everything.
So you mentioned creativity before, and obviously you're always coming up with stuff. But I wanted to ask you because, you know, creativity is a fire and it's something that you want to push stuff out. But the problem with fire is that it can burn you out, right? If you're never satisfied, like that this is good enough, I can worry about something else. Where do you draw the line and be like, I'm going to melt down if I like go down this rabbit hole of how to research this molecule or ingredient any further? Like, where do you got to leash yourself in?
I think the secret, I mean, maybe I learned it a little more as I've gotten a little older. I mean, I used to be a maniac every day, 100 hours as a younger man. But I think as you get a little older, you start to realize that, you know, patience and pace is everything. I think that you can selectively apply some of that intensity to certain people or certain things, or, you know, some things to give it back to you and fuel you again. One of those things is creativity. And for me personally, it's seeing someone else's light go on. You know, like I think that that's why I love team building and I love our appreciation, our flow of attention for our staff into our restaurant, in our people. I think that really feeding it to someone else, you know, literally and figuratively, is what keeps it coming back to you. And I think that's the big thing is like, you know, I chose this profession because I love making people happy. I realized that about myself for a long time and how this was a vehicle for that. Culinary arts in general was a vehicle for that. But then the restaurant model of like, I can turn anybody around in 2 hours. They might come in here hangry, grumpy, pissed off about something, and I can spin them around pretty good in 2.5 hours. A little bit of booze, a little bit of food, some biscuits, and some whiskey, and I got them. And I think that that was maybe what made me choose this career path. And I think that the same goes for our teams. Like if I can be of service to them, and I think that's key, is being of service is what makes you realize that that can come back to you tenfold. And, you know, I live my life by that, but it's, you take care of people, you make sure they got everything they need, you create this environment for them, and then you support them in it. You know, you make sure they got something to stand on. And then when you see that start to click, that creativity and that fire has fed them, and then it creates their own sort of flame about what they want, what they need to do, or what they like. And that's customer, guest, staff, team, everybody. That's how you keep it going, I think, is when you can have it come back to you. It might take a while sometimes, but when you can have it come back to you and people, you just stay consistent enough to see that. And that's the big one. I think that's what keeps me fueled. Creativity is something that's endless, I think, for the inquisitive mind. I don't think it's something you can turn off. I certainly can't turn it off in me. I know from late night freaking YouTube holes or whatever, you just can't turn it off. Nowadays, the internet of food and beverage and drink and concept and ideas and market, it's all at the fingertips, right? So sometimes it can get a little bit overwhelming, but as long as I think you stay focused and try to and pace is everything. You know, that's the one thing I've learned now.
Oh, I have to ask you about this. When some people hear, well, sometimes when I hear, I shouldn't blame it on other people. Sometimes when I hear, oh, team building, I think of various situations that I've been aware where people where restaurant owners are like, oh, we're all like a family, which sometimes doesn't really turn out to mean what people thought it meant. So, what does team building specifically consist of to you?
Um, I think number one, yeah, that family word is really difficult because some families are super dysfunctional. So we don't use that. I would rather say us, you know, team together, you know, we. I think that's kind of how I approach my day too. Is like, I'm pretty much, I try to be there for everybody, whether it's, scrubbing dishes or taking out the garbage or pulling bus tubs and I've always kind of done that as my whole life as a career. I always wanted to be the guy who could do everything. If somebody needed something, I wanted to be able to be there for that. But I think team building in general is empowering individuals to be the best version of themselves. You give them the tools, you give them the ability, you give them the environment, you give them all the support they need, and then you kind of give them a little drive too. Sometimes it's a kick in the pants. Sometimes it's you did a great job. Sometimes it's a big high five. Sometimes some people don't even need it. Some people are already freaking motors going very high, and you just kind of point them in the right direction and let them go and give them some parameters, sometimes about some guidance. But team building to me is making sure that you can understand the plight of someone else and then make sure they can get what they want out of it. Well, sometimes it's financial, sometimes it's accomplishment, sometimes it's career, sometimes it's just inclusion. And I think that is a big deal. I think in management and leadership in general, I think, we talked about mentorship, but the idea of like understanding what you're looking at, understanding that person and really being able to put yourself in their eyes and understand what their needs are. And then you can then provide, and if you can, sometimes you can't. And that's, if you got a good team, they understand that as well. And that, it's not always easy. It's not something you can do, especially when you got to take care of yourself. You got to take care of the house in order to survive. You can't. Sometimes it's more difficult than the days of yore where you could just bust out a couple $100 for everybody. It's just not that way anymore. But now, the non-financial carrots of being able to have a balanced work-life balance, have an environment that people feel like they're accomplishing or can feel accomplishment, and then being part of something that is a more than themselves, I think is a really great attitude of team building now.
I guess what I'm hearing, and let me see if this is accurate. I mean, it's almost like an in loco parentis kind of feeling, which must make it difficult for you. Well, I don't know. You tell me. Does it make it difficult when people grow up? When the baby leaves the nest, the bird's got to leave the nest, James. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, you're working with these people. They're so important to you. They occupy places in your business that you don't have to worry about. When you've got somebody good, you're like, I don't have to worry about that. But if you're serious about helping people grow, they got to leave, right? Because you're not going to sell them your restaurant.
No, maybe one day. I got a couple of guys that would be great at it. Yes, the moving on is important. And that is, that's important to our cycle as well. If you have to be able to see that there is a goal in there, you have to, in order to have that motivation for people that you're teaching them some things that might be difficult sometimes, it might be hard for them to understand, that they can see the light at the end of the tunnel, that you can go on and be great and do great things. Yes, that is a necessary component. Does it make it difficult on me? Absolutely. But in that cycle of growth is that same like wonderment of being of new. I need that new energy, that fresh eyes, that rookie noob, like mindset of holy shit, I've never seen this before. I need that for my fuel. So when those people kind of move on and I get the chance to bring somebody new in and they see this thing running at a high level, they are like, wow, I didn't realize a little restaurant like this could operate like that. Or the same thing as our guests. Unassumingly, they come in here and think it's just going to be a job, and all of a sudden we're rocking and rolling, and they are like, wow, this thing's running at a very high level. And yeah, just unseemingly so. That's our motto. That's our move, is we can be sort of like sneaky, just doing things at an incredibly high rate and a high level of efficiency and a high level of competency, and then we'd be able to and show them that, and then that breeds that learning and accomplishment in them. It's the same way. So seeing people go on to do great things, since I've been in Buffalo, I've been proud to be able to watch and sometimes nurture, but mostly witness some incredible growth of some, really powerful culinary people and service too now. Being in restaurants now, with Toutant, I've seen a lot of service people who have just discovered their firepower in being great at what they do and being of service and being reverent about being so good at it. So I like to take pride in that. I don't take it for granted, and I certainly don't count it amongst bragging of accomplishments. But when I see other people be really great at something, it is incredible. If I had any part of it in it or not, it's to me, it's that's maybe the most my favorite part. And like I say, with the parents, you know, it's the same thing with kids. It's to see them like wondrously be amazed at learning something and be capable of something is freaking incredible. So it's not no different with employees.
So you opened Toutant in 2015. As far as things changing in the restaurant business, that might as well be in the Mesozoic era at this point, right?
Yeah. Yes.
So much has changed. So one of the things, so you've been there on Ellicott Street, and you know, time passes, civilizations rise and fall. The building next to you
Literally.
collapses. You get, were there two floods or just the one where everything, the water came through
I
the roof
mean,
and went all the way into the basement?
it's a 100-year-old building. We had one in the basement that was something that snuck up on us after the building fell. We didn't realize that there was plumbing and connected, so we didn't know that part. When it rained real bad next door, we got a decent flood in the basement. But yeah, the water up top, we had to shut it down and rebuild the floors and stuff in the bar. That was just a frozen
But
pipe. It was a
where I was going, and it is 1:41, and we've had fun
okay.
talking, and I just want to make sure that we get over things. Is so when you're invested in taking care of your people in addition to the business, what do you do when the building collapses? And like, what is it like? I guess maybe let me ask the question a different way. Let me back up. What's it like having a job where you're at the mercy of so many different elements of the world? People can't come in. The building collapses. You can do everything right. Your team is humming along. You've got your coolers stocked. Everybody, the prep is done. Everything's here, and it snows.
Yeah,
How do
it
you
is.
how do you how do you roll?
It does keep it interesting. Um, I think people talk about how you can know if someone has worked in food service pretty quickly if you can you watch them work or watch them crisis management. Um, it is some one of those things. That I don't have a playbook either. You know, just for the record, we don't have answers. We roll with it. We use our resources. We try to do the best we can. And I think that as you become fluent in that crisis management, we say it a lot. It's kind of funny that we know how to turn this thing down so quickly. We can shut down this restaurant and package it up in a little shell in like 2 days. Why that's a skill I wish we never knew how to have. But it is something that it's a razor's edge. You live and die by it. Our highs are so high that people response, being able to make people happy every single day, watching them go, holy shit, this is so good. Watching them, fawn over loved ones and be like, this is an amazing experience. Watching our staff grow and become accomplished professionals, watching our culinary crew make something and go, holy wow, I did that 3 times, 5 times, 100 times in a row. Amazingly. Those are such incredible highs that there has to be a balance there. So like when we fight those tough battles where it's a tough shift or some things are going wrong or we're missing a few people or all those things, it's just a balancing out of what the gratification of what we get to do every day. And if you take it in that vein where you're like, we'll roll with this too, right? I get it all, so we'll just go with it and stick to our guns and try to take care of each other and see how we can do. And eventually with perseverance it just keeps going. And that's the thing about restaurants is maybe the people don't understand, and that goes maybe for a lot of businesses. Once you turn the switch on, there's no turning it off. People are making plans 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 5 weeks, a month out. They know that they're trusting you're going to be there, and you're going to be there the way that they expect you to be there. So it's some things you can't help. Obviously, thank God Buffalo is such a unique, like understanding sort of I say the good neighbor town, but the they understand hard work, they understand genuine. You can't fake it with Buffalo, but man, if you are true to what you say and do, then they are true right back to you. And I think that a lot of those challenges are overcome because we're here and because people are the same as we're doing the same thing. But yes, the balance is you get such the highest highs and sometimes the lowest lows. But it is what it is. I mean, it's not digging ditches.
So let me ask you a question this way. What are the biggest changes that you have had to cope with in the restaurant business writ large since 2015? Now
Um,
we have about 15 minutes left. So,
okay,
and I also
sure.
want to hit you with my 4 questions, but that so there you are. You're on Ellicott Street. Civilizations rise, civilizations fall. You're still selling Nashville attendees. What are some of the big things that have changed since 2015?
Well, I think the one thing is, I think, obviously the cost of doing business has changed considerably with the cost of living, and that's just sort of how it works. I think we made some incredible strides in this industry of trying to pay people fairly, trying to come up with some things that are better for them. Are we still a ways away from what is an ideal, benefit laden, just career minded workforce and a work of opportunity? Sure. But I think that, number one, financially, the world has changed. And it's no longer about what the chicken costs on the plate. Now it's what it takes to get the chicken to the plate. And I think that's the one thing that we said in COVID, when with supply chains shortened up and people started talking about, oh, things are going to cost more. Well, yeah, some things go up and then they come down and they come back. But the one thing that don't go down is people are worth more now. People's time is worth more now. So that goes for employees, it goes for staff, it goes for people, it goes for guests really. But guests have started to realize more now that there are intrinsic costs that make the restaurant harder. It's certainly a lot tighter model to work from. It takes a lot more efficiency management and management of loss. You just can't do the things you want to do lately. And you notice that a lot of people, some people will be out of something, some people will do this. That's a cost thing. They're just not investing in bulk inventory or whatever. But I think that number one, the people's realization that restaurants and dining of quality should cost more has been my favorite thing. I think that so many people are so high on prices and gouging. Not gouging. Some people are really high on costs because of the way things are going. And certainly some things are never going to go down. Utilities never going to go down again. Insurance is never going to go down again. And they're up high. People come and go. Thank God they've gotten up a little higher. People can live on what we're doing. But there's a ceiling for us for price, for price increases. We are we try to be very sensitive to that and balance being able to operate. That's the toughest part right now. But I think things that have changed for the good is people realize what is quality, because there are so many people that are so high up on cost and not giving them a quality product underneath it, that when we can give them high levels of service, high levels of quality for a reasonable price, people are more appreciative of that because of the scale of cost now. So maybe that's my favorite part.
So let me ask you, I've got 4 questions. I try to ask all the guests a little, well, it's not really an intermezzo because we're at 1:48 here. But just, I pitch, you swing. All right.
Sure.
Okay. So so you're from Louisiana, but you're living in the relatively Buffalo, Rochester area for what, a couple decades?
Yeah, 2007.
So let's say,
been a
for
while.
reasons that aren't important, you've been absent from the Buffalo, New York area for at least a decade, and you fly into the airport and your family and Connie's out of town, so you're not going to see them. Where do you go and what do you eat? You've been missing from Buffalo for 10 years. What is the first thing you go to the airport and you eat it?
You mean not Toutant? I'm a big.
Yes, James,
Yeah,
not
yeah,
Toutant.
yeah. I love chicken wings. Obviously beef on weck is really up there. I think the one thing Buffalo has that that a lot of places don't have, and we don't take for granted is the pizza. So I think I love freaking pizza, all kinds, all varieties. So I think Imperial, double pep, light well done. I think it's kind of where I got to go. 10 years, absolutely.
Okay.
And a side of medium hot, yes.
So you've been around the world, you've eaten around the world. Please name one dish that you think about and you're like, if this dish just existed in Buffalo, I would eat it. I would buy it. Just one.
That's easy. Great tonkatsu. Great ramen. That's
That's two.
a beautiful.
Those are
tonkatsu
two.
ramen.
Okay.
Not pork. Not pork cutlet. Tonkatsu pork ramen. Creamy, light, aromatic broth, thin noodles, incredible braised pork. Unbelievable.
You experienced in Japan, right?
We had, yeah. Well, Debutsu, well, maybe 5 years too early, but still holds a very special place in my heart. So
Listen,
I
if
would
I had
say
a
yes.
time machine, I would go back to Debussy to have that. And then I would get in the time machine and I would go to Compass Run and I would get that goddamn bouillabaisse. You wrecked me with that.
Yeah, we might do that here.
Right. Well, put it on the specials card.
Okay.
We have a question. Are you planning on stocking non-alcoholic beer at Toutant?
Yeah, we have a NA. We have the Athletic NA IPA on our menu at all times.
Okay. Asked and answered, Your Honor. All right, playing through. Um, Next question. Just be honest. What is your secret junk food safety spot where you're like, I just need to buy this thing in the gas station right now and eat it?
Nacho cheese,
Okay.
any sort of queso, nacho, processed white, green, yellow, doesn't matter. Chips,
So
dip,
if you're like
pretzels,
me,
whatever.
do you ever secretly thrill when you walk into a 7-Eleven and see the nacho cheese pump?
Yeah, yeah. It's hard for me to not do that. I don't know how long that pump's been on, so I'd rather eat it myself.
No, no, no. I
But
know,
yes,
I know, I
the
know, I know. I
ballparks,
don't.
games, anything. Connie's like nachos again. I'm like, yes.
Okay, last question of the one-offs. What's a place in town that you can't believe doesn't get more attention? Now,
I mean,
besides Toutant,
yeah. I mean, Wax Light's gotten a little attention lately, so that's maybe up there on that. Man, it's such a tough one.
well, at least I didn't ask you where you go to buy chicken wings, so I was trying to take it easy on you.
Yeah, yeah. I think Waxlight probably. I think people don't realize
Right?
you can get out of there for not a lot of money and be freaking wowed every time. I think that's got to be huge. There's a lot of people we have friends that need a little love, but I like them all.
Oh, and it's we would point out for those playing along at home that one of the partners at Waxlight is Joseph Fanouche, former sous chef
Yeah,
at
yeah. He's
Toutant.
incredible. He's incredible. Yeah, they all are. Jeff, Tony, magical. I mean, they got it down pat. I think maybe if you're playing like that, I think maybe some place that doesn't it's under the radar is Oliver's for casual dining. Is people think it's
Oh,
so
what you
stuffy.
just said? You just said Oliver's and casual dining. Hey,
Oh
hey,
yeah,
please explain.
yeah. You can go in the bar there and knock them dead with small plates pretty easily. Big whiskey, a little bit of wine, high levels of knowledge and service for pretty easily. And you don't have to go in there and blow. I mean, you can if you want to go 10 courses, the whole nine, decadent stuff, the whole thing. You can, but you can go in there and have like 2 or 3 things at a bar and some of them desserts and be very casual about it. That's our secret. Like sometimes late night hit. If we get out early, that's I'm trying to get there.
Hey, see, this is why I asked. I did not see that coming.
Yeah.
Okay, so it is 1:53, and Mr. Roberts, thank you for joining us. As I suspected, uh, we could talk for an hour and not really get to all the things that we might possibly talk about. So there's and wait, Gotti, do you have a question?
No, no, I was waving bye-bye.
Okay. Well, hang on, hang on. I just wanted this is the opportunity to say to Mr. Roberts, hey, we got a few minutes. Is there anything else you want to talk about? Anything else you want to get out there? This will be hopefully published to YouTube. What do you have to say, Mr. Roberts?
I think that I think maybe the one thing I'd like to say is we are lucky at Toutant to have some incredible guests come through here. We have a lot of regulars, a lot of new people, and because we tend to be so, casual and welcoming, we tend to get a lot of that feedback back. That reverb of people being nice and cool. I said, if anything, one thing, if you can be something in dining nowadays in this climate, this dining environment for restaurateurs and restaurant workers, is to be nice. I said that's maybe the only thing. No matter how you came in here, hot, mad, hangry, whatever, just be cool, be nice. It will go so long of a way. That's not even about really tipping. Yes, tip everybody, tip your servers, tip everybody. It's American culture. It's not going away anytime soon. I hope it does, but not right now. But I just be nice. It's not always about money. It is the attitude and the presence that you hold in a restaurant will get you so many more wonderful doors opened that you have never thought possible by people who are passionate and caring about their particular skill set. So I think that's my message: is be well, be nice, and get it. But come get it.
And might I add, is it would be fair for me to add, be nice, be well, and talk to your server. You don't really know what's possible. They might be able to do the thing.
They got it all. I mean, if they got anybody like we got, they can do whatever they whatever they need to do. We're lucky, and there are a lot of places like us that are lucky to have such amazing people available to guests. I mean, it's awesome.
Oh,
My
I
favorite
feel
job in the
lucky.
whole world.
I feel lucky that James and Connie Roberts are here in Buffalo, New York, where they decided to plant Toutant. And thank you for bringing your grandpa's fish camp in memory and in as much reality as you can bring to the plate. It's made a difference to me to have a place where I can go and get pork rinds and real pimento cheese. I mean,
Well, it's fun.
oh,
It's
thank
a
you.
great job. We love it, but we're just getting warmed up. I mean, we ain't done by any
Well, we got a
stretch
couple
of the
minutes left. Let's
imagination.
talk about the future. What's coming? Anything going on? What?
No, I mean, we have learned to be good at what we do, and we're, me being back here now full time for the last year. I really enjoyed getting good at this, and really just concentrating on who we are and what we want to be and what the future holds for us, and that is being better every day if we can be, and that alone is a noble quest for me, and that's to our people, to our staff. They that way to the customers are that way to our restaurant, and that's our cycle. It's our employees first, but then everybody else. I mean, being good at them, being good for them, and them being good for everybody else is really incredible.
That seems like a good place to stop because I just want to give you a hug and say thank you for Toutant. Thank you to all your people who have served so many people happily there and given Buffalo, New York, a place where they know they can go and get a shrimp po' boy and hear the roll crackle.
Yeah,
Thank you.
we hope. Yeah, you're
All
welcome.
right.
Thank you.